Excellence Podcast. We're your hosts, Carlo and Brenden. How's it going, Brenden?
I'm going really well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm good. We are kicking off a new year with a new topic.
Yeah.
Dopamine.
Yes.
Now, I am a big believer that you do get not only really addicted to dopamine, but also at the same time, if utilized incorrectly, becomes a problem. And at the same time, dopamine has its benefits because it is a natural neurotransmitter in the body, so you do need it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when it is either underutilized or overutilized, it becomes a real issue. And so this is where the juggling act comes in. And how would you go about describing dopamine and then effective tools to not only just manage it, but use it in a way that's productive?
Well, just find dopamine as something not necessarily hits all the time, like to your mind. It's also the anticipation of hits that are coming to you. So it's you constantly looking at your phone in anticipation for a message to come through or a notification or something like that, and that takes away from your day-to-day life, and then that creates stimulation, even just looking for that notification, and it's also a sense of validation at the same time as well. You're trying to seek from seeing that come up or not, and then before you know it, by the end of the day, your mind is just stimulated to the shit house.
Yeah.
And then you might go to the gym, or you might go to watch a movie or play a game or something like that. All them, especially if the movie's like a high action movie or something like that, that's increasing your dopamine levels. As you go down your caffeine intake during the day, all these little things are adding up to your dopamine levels. Before you know, at the end of the day, you're fried, and it stops you from sleeping, and you're just alert, and then you're just really overstimulated, and you can't really be present because of that. So I try and use dopamine to my advantage and just try and be as calm as present during the day, and then when it comes to time that I've got to go to the gym, try and increase it then to put it into positive action, not trying to sort of trying to block out all the other stuff as much as possible, which is hard, but it's a skill that you can master if you put in the reps. It is doable. The people like before us, like in the generations before, they never had phones. So it's also putting yourself in fight or flight mode all the time as well, your dopamine. So if you're in that time all the time, then it's not good for your body either. Like, you're constantly under stress. And when you're under stress, then that's affecting the decisions you're making and the way you're treating people as well. So it's got a massive effect, and not only how you see yourself, but how other people see you as well.
It only amplifies your survival mode, right? And when you were talking about the phones, it's exactly what it is. Like, you're stressed to the shit house, and then you go, all right, I'm going to stress myself some more by looking at this rectangle that is extracting this light that now I'm addicted to because I feel like that my world is in there and not out there.
Yeah.
And so put the damn phone down, guys. Like, that's a lot of what currently pertains to a lot of the issues that we have. Yes, there's a whole lot more conjecture and science behind how dopamine works. Like, what Brenden was explaining is accurate, but it also isn't everything. And so when you take into consideration the stress that you're under already, and then adding your phone, adding all the day-to-day activities and doing all different things, that's a lot of not only dopamine, but cortisol and other neurotransmitters that your body is naturally responding to the environment that you're in. And so the cortisol, the dopamine, it isn't exactly the problem, it's the response. And so because your body is then responding in that way, then the sequence of events later down the track lead to poor decision making, lead to inability to regulate emotions, lead to unable to have conversations because you are now in this bubble, in this dopamine bubble where you're constantly anticipating a text message, you're constantly anticipating stress, you're constantly anticipating different things that are putting more and more load onto your nervous system, onto your body. And so being able to understand that dopamine should be treated like, let's say, junk food, for example, where you eat it at a discretionary rate and not all the time, because you're just constantly overloading your nervous system, you're overloading your body, your digestive system, and all other different systems that interlock with one another. And you start then practicing these habits of always looking at your phone. Like on average, I heard some ridiculous remark that you check your phone like 2,000 times a day. Like that's absurd,
yeah, right.
Absolutely absurd, right? And you think about checking your phone even more, and you pick it up, there it is,
yeah.
right? And that is that cycle being repeated. And so you're practicing a pattern. And so when you begin to notice the pattern, then you either utilize the pattern or you discard the pattern and create a new pattern. And the thing is, dopamine essentially is built on pattern creation because you're anticipating a high, right? Then you get said high, right? And then it goes to a low because it's then lowering to baseline levels. That's dopamine, right? That's essentially your heart rate as well. Like you get an elevated heart rate, your heart rate decreases, your elevated heart rate, and it's fibrillating. And so that's exactly what dopamine is as well. But when you're on your phone all the time, the fibrillation gets higher. And then what happens when you get low, it's a proper low as well. It's not an even low like it was because it's got to be proportionate. It's like going on a roller coaster, for example, where you're on a roller coaster, your heart rate increases, your dopamine increases, your oxytocin increases after you realize that you're actually okay, and the sense of joy that you get, like, oh my God, that was an incredible experience. And then you walk it off, then your body returns back to baseline. That's exactly what you're doing when you're on your phone all the time, right? Your body has to return to baseline, but if you keep going on your phone, then your body doesn't return to baseline, and that's where you're getting that chronic flight or fight stress response. And so take your phone off for a day, switch it off completely. Like, don't even go on it. Like, if you want to regulate and you want to build back your nervous system, turn your phone off. Pardon me. And understand that dopamine, again, is just a natural part of the body. So there isn't an issue with low dopamine or high dopamine. It's just that the way that it's been utilized, you're probably using it way more than you should. And so another example, you're in a confined space a lot of your day as well. You're not spending time outdoors. You're not eating foods that are going to be healthier for your body than the processed foods that you eat because you make a choice. And so all of these different things also affect dopamine as well, because you're anticipating the next episode of your Netflix series. You're anticipating when you're going to eat next. You're anticipating when somebody's going to tell you some good news or bad news. All of these different things are all linked to dopamine. Like dopamine plays a huge, huge role in your life. And the faster you're able to understand its effects, positive and negative, and the way you then manufacture your life around how you respond to different situations, then you'll be able to regulate a lot better. And so from what I've understood, what I've learned about myself, is that by learning to be present and taking breaths and doing some form of meditation or some form of emotional regulation allows me to get my body back to baseline so that I'm not chronically stressed and I'm not chronically going into flight or fight. anticipating all the time and spiking dopamine.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to observe how my body responds to different things. And so this is why talking about dopamine is such an important topic.
Yeah. I find personally, like through work, like there's a few things that sort of increase my dopamine naturally, like through having like a lot of questions thrown at me, and you're always in anticipation for events to come up, and then by the end of the day, like, and also I'm bad for it, and I'm pretty renowned for it at work for having 10 million tabs open. That I should get into the into the habit. See, that's how much tabs are in my mind. of getting rid of tabs as I go. I just leave them open as I do, and then refer back to them. So by doing that, little things like that will sort of help lower your dopamine levels in a way as well. Because sometimes at the end of the day, like, depends on how busy the day is, your stimulation is that high. The time you leave the building, you go to your car, you sort of feel like empty in a way. There's nothing there because you had that much stimulation versus where you are now. Everyone's gone home. You're sort of taking your shoes out, the car to put on for the gym or whatever, and you're just in a different world. And then me personally, I elevate my dopamine again afterwards, whilst I'm at the gym in the positive rate, and then I'm brand new again. It's a bit of a cycle there. But doing little things through the day will help you be a bit more present and basically negate that overstimulation during the day.
Well, life is a cycle, right? And so dopamine spikes and lowering dopamine is also a cycle. And so your dopamine's not always going to be super high. But as I was saying earlier, when it is sky high and it's sky high all the time, when your body does eventually return to baseline, it's going to hit you hard, like really hard. So like another example is going to the beach. Now, I don't understand the science behind it, but every time I go to the beach, it's a nice sunny day, I'm swimming in the water, I'm really just returning my body to nature, and I'm there lying on the stand. I come home and I crash. I completely crash, either because the dopamine I get from going into the water and the oxytocin I get as well, and then not really caring about the stress in my life. When I get back home, my body is so relaxed that I just completely crash. And so I think it is a mixture between the two, where I'm in a really good state of mind and I'm not stressing and I completely have forgotten everything about life. I'm also in the water, which is really high in trace minerals and nutrients as well, that the body does absorb so that it gets healthier. And then I'm lying in the sun for a good hour and getting a lot of vitamin D in too. Like, just that mixture itself gets dopamine up to a baseline level, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm not chronically stressed anymore, I can finally sleep. And then I continue on my life in a confined space, or looking at my phone, looking at my laptop, doing work and things like that. And now suddenly I'm back on that cycle again. And so maybe this is a call for you to get out more. And when you build up your dopamine levels as well, you need to bring them back to baseline. That's really it. But you want to do it in a way that's manageable as well, because if you're on a really high and anticipating a lot, and then you take a beach day, for example, or a relaxing holiday, and you come back, then what will happen is, that's why when you do come back on a holiday, I don't want to go back to work. Oh my God, why couldn't I just stay there longer? Because now you're anticipating, you're coming back into the painful cycle that you know isn't good for you, but you've got to survive somehow in this economy, and you go and do exactly what you're doing before the holiday to begin with, and then you're back in that cycle, repeating the cycle again. You know what? Yeah, something's got to change. Something's got to give. So doing something different will help you not only regulate your dopamine levels, but regulate yourself.
Yeah, I don't really find that, to be honest, like the holiday thing, personally.
Yeah.
When I sort of get back, I like getting on a big routine person, and I just get straight back in it, and sort of, if anything, I get like anxiety for stuff that I don't get done.
Yeah.
So I get straight onto it, and then that alleviates my anxiety.
You see, I think the difference too, though, with you is that you have systems in place, and you have an actual routine where people that I've met, and myself for quite a long time as well, just went with the flow. And so, and that flow being get up, go to work, despise the boss, go home, despise yourself for 8 hours watching TV and eating really shit food, going to bed and then doing the same thing every single day. And so, and then when I did go overseas and then I'd come back, I'd be like, oh no, I'm back.
This shit,
right? What the fuck is this piece of shit, right? And so I'm going, yeah, dude, like this can't keep happening. And I've created this life where now being able to do what I like, when I like, that's really important as well. And so that's helped me regulate. That's helped me build systems and understand myself better, so that then I'm not in this particular cycle and I'm in a completely different cycle altogether. And so everything is cyclical. And so when the faster you learn that and accept that, the better off you'll be. And by having an understanding of how dopamine works and how your neural pathways work, which we can get into deeper on a different episode, you'll be able to then go, hey, you know what? I'm making these really fucking shitty decisions based on the dopamine, whether it's Netflix, whether it's social media, whether it's food, whether it's toxic people, whatever it is. All of that is based on anticipation and familiar feelings. When you learn to start getting uncomfortable and you learn restraint and you also learn patience, then you'll be able to go, no. Then you'll be able to go, hey, you know what? I'm feeling shit at the moment, or I'm feeling fucked, rather than drink caffeine or eat or do something that is going to help me feel better. Maybe you should just take a moment and breathe and stop and go, hey, how is this actually really affecting me? And not, oh, I need to fill myself up with something else so that then I can fill this void, or I can regulate, or I can soothe, whatever the story is. And so there's a whole Pandora's box on this particular topic. Like, we can go absolutely anywhere with this particular topic, but what I want to just narrow down is that dopamine is just a natural response to environment. That's essentially it. And so understanding that you, in anticipation of dealing with customers or dealing with colleagues or dealing with your workout or dealing with your parents or your family at home, not in a bad way, in any way, shapes the way that your dopamine responds as a consequence. And so when you figure out that all of your body is working in conjunction with you and not against you in response to its current environment, you'll be able to then better grasp why you're making certain decisions and why you're feeling a certain way, so that then when you start noticing the patterns and you start noticing the changes that you make, your nervous system then feels safe enough to transition into that change. Because a lot of the time you feel stuck, it's not because you don't know what to do, it's often because you are in what's called a freeze state. And so your dopamine is up and down, but at the same time, you feel immobile. You feel, no, I can't move, like this is too dangerous, this is too hard, and you don't do anything. And so when, as I was explaining, you understand the conjecture that I just went through, you'll then be able to go, oh, hey, wait a minute, this is actually safe. And you give yourself that positive self-talk and that positive affirmation that you're able to move into this next part of your journey.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's about the awareness, isn't it? And they, like, if you become aware of your behaviour and when you're feeling a certain way, after a certain amount of time that you've had enough of them behaviours, you'll want to change. You'll just be sick of it that much that you want to change them behaviours.
I'm partially mentally ill in that aspect, because there are times where I just recognise my behaviour and know that things need changing, and sometimes I just still do the same thing. And so I feel like that is just absolute mental illness. Like, you're going, yeah, you know, I'm really fucking up here and here and here, and then, no, you know what, I'm still going to do the same thing. And I feel like that hasn't bothered me enough yet, like, which is awful to say, because you go, you know what, you're doing all the right things, but also at the same time, I have this expectation of said result, or I have this expectation of said outcome, but there's no output. And there's no output because I'm deciding to do a completely different behavior altogether, right? It's like going to the club on a Saturday and then going to a church on Sunday, right? It's two polar opposites, right? Yeah. Not to say that can't happen and you lead a successful life, but at the same time, like, when you think about ideology, it's like, it's two parallel worlds. Yeah. And so when you're eating like shit, but then you're going and training heavy and everything else, you're doing yourself a disservice, because the eating eventually becomes disproportionate to the training. And so when you're doing things that are spiking your dopamine, right, just for the fun of it or just for the adrenaline, yes, your body can take that, but if you aren't bringing yourself back to baseline and you're still doing the polar opposites, what will end up happening is then you'll have spiked it enough where eventually when it does go back to baseline, it'll just plummet. And that's when the real low is that depression, that anxiety feeling of not wanting to risk something because you've fried yourself completely. And you see me, I've been there a number of times, and it's not fun. It's not fun.
No, well, it gets to a stage of, because like, if it's really at a point that you got no comfort at all, or no fallback, then you're sort of forced to change as well. So that's another point of view of getting it. And also the other thing is with that is in terms of comfort, you're comfortable in that state. You'll be less comfortable to move away from that. So you'd rather stay in the comfort state because you're familiar with it, rather than move away from it.
I'd go as further as to say that you identify with it.
Because
the thing is, like, if you don't identify with it, you're going to be way more uncomfortable, and you want to move that much faster. But if you have a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, where you're going, well, you know what, I actually identify with what's oppressing me, then you're more likely going to stay comfortable with where you are, right? And a lot of the time, the environment that we live in now is geared towards that, right? Staying comfortable, being small, not having a voice, all these different things, and that spikes your dopamine more and more, because you have your anticipation of an event or something not being said, but you have to say it. And in your mind, you identify as someone who either doesn't have a voice or are speechless or powerless or anything like that. You're not going to say anything. And then when you don't say anything, you feel guilty and you feel resentful and you feel doubtful that you'll be able to advance in your life, wherever that might take you. And again, dopamine, cortisol, all these different things are spiked. You're feeling stressed. You feel like you're living in the rat race. You're doing all these different things that are completely incongruent with the life that you want, all because you didn't make a decision earlier. And so indecisiveness also then spikes dopamine as well. You're constantly in anticipation. Then, dude, just fucking make the decision. Make the decision so that then you can return to baseline. Like, stop putting yourself in a position that is going to compromise you, unless you don't respect yourself enough to go, hey, I'm going to be more decisive. Or you don't love yourself enough and you go, well, hey, you know what? I'm just going to stay where I am because it's easier, right? And because I'm more comfortable. That's very silly, but also very, very common. And so knowing that would go, yeah, I need to change my identity. That's the shift that's needed. And we've spoken about that on a bunch of episodes.
Yeah, it's right. Like, yeah, if you like you said, the whole Stockholm syndrome here. It's a common thing because you're taught to sort of be like the silent majority as well. So if you don't feel as though you need to speak up because everyone has the same opinions, but then you see other opinions that are against what you're saying, and then that puts you off from saying something as well because you feel like you're alone in your own beliefs.
Yeah, and then the dopamine goes, whee!
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I need to say something, and then you don't say something, and you're like, oh, now I've got to anticipate like what other people are going to think of me for not saying something. Right?
Yeah.
And then when I do say something, it'll be too late, and then people are going to judge me anyway. So my dopamine, whee! And then when it all sort of unravels and everything just sort of whistles down, and then your dopamine goes whoosh, like, and so that's not good, like, because you want to be able to have at least proportionate spikes and lows, and so that then you're not up down, right? Like that's like having a really fast heartbeat, right? And so high heart rate, low, high, low, high, low, not necessary, because that will really put a lot of stress on your body as well. So look after your dopamine, look after it, start focusing on it more so that then you become more aware of what it is doing to both your body as well as your mind and your relationships, because having a fundamental understanding of the role that dopamine has will allow you to make measurable improvements in your life as well.
Yeah, and don't try and seek cheap dopamine either. Try and just eliminate that from your life as much as you can, because you're going to be feeling better about yourself.
Yeah, so stop watching people skydive on Instagram and go skydiving.
Yeah, well, you can do that. Yeah, I prefer concrete.
Yeah, you prefer concrete. Okay, stop watching people ride motorcycles on Instagram and go for a motorcycle ride yourself.
Yeah.
Right, so just do concrete, right? And just do things. Like, just continue to do things. Like, try new things. Do something different. Get out there. Enjoy the life that you were given, and build up your dopamine by doing real shit. Because by doing real shit, not only do you have stories to tell, but you become way more emotionally regulated. People are stressed to the shit out a lot of the time because they've never really done anything. And if you ever watch a film, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, great film, it's the same deal. He's at this job for 16 years, never been anywhere, stressed to the shit house, right? He's scared of what everyone thinks and has no sense of who he is. Then he just suddenly goes to Iceland. And it was for a work thing, but at the same time, he was just doing random shit, and it was a random trip, and suddenly he's chill. Suddenly things are okay. And go and do real shit.
Separate yourself from
your mind,
your
identity, your dopamine. Do it all. Just do it all, and then get a feeling of what that feels like. Actually feel it. Don't intellectualize it. Don't let it sort of fester in your mind. I'm not saying go and book a trip to Kyrgyzstan or somewhere in Central Asia right now, but I'm just saying that, you know what, there's a lot more to the world than you probably know. And when you do really come to that realization and then actually go out there and do real shit, your dopamine's going to go back to normal. It's going to be natural. It's not natural to fucking sit in confined spaces 5 days a week from 9 to 5 and then go home and then sit in another confined space for another 7 hours to then go to sleep in that same confined space for another 8 and then start your day in that said confined space to then go back to another confined space 5 days a week. That's not natural at all. And so no wonder your dopamine and your cortisol are up to the shit house, because you're just living a confined life. So your solution is probably just to get out there and go and do. And that has been something personal for me as well, because I've begun to notice a lot about how I've lived my life and how it's affected the decisions that I've made. And so COVID wasn't a hell, everyone was at home, and I did my best to go outside as much as possible. And also when I was living at home before I moved out, I was much younger and I didn't really have an understanding of the world, but I was more of an introverted individual and tended to stay home a lot more, tended really not to go out there and actively seek things, actively go and do things. Now, I might travel. Where do I go? What do I want to do? Bang, 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 right? I still have parts of me that like to sort of just stay home and do nothing, right? But then also at the same time, working towards something and then also being able to go out there and go do different things, that's very rewarding. And at the same time, helps my dopamine because I feel like I'm less on my phone. I feel like less like the world's ending and the future's actually really bright. And this divide and conquer tactic that social media brings up is less daunting. And I'm not constantly just flooded with dopamine spikes because I'm just doom scrolling on my phone.
Yeah, that definitely helps. I think that just about wraps up.
It does.
So there's that many things we could go on about, but I think this is...
Just go on and on and on and on. Like dopamine does. Dopamine just goes on and on and on and on.
Exactly.
Dopamine. Till next time, stay excellent. Thank you for watching our episode today. We hope you did enjoy it, and please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great day. Thank you.